Florida State and Alex Atkins are off to a super hot start with recruiting the offensive line this cycle. The transfer class as a whole on both offense and defense is shaping up really well, but I love the way this offensive line group is looking so far as we get further into the summer. Now on the offensive line, Florida State already has a commitment from five-star Solomon Thomas, who is the number one interior offensive lineman in the whole country. Now, for those of you who are wondering, I'm not worried really at all about his commitment status. I know some people are worried about Florida. At one point, Miami was looking to be a potential threat. LSU is still lingering there as well, but I feel like even though he is probably going to take official visits to those schools, I truly think it's just him going through the whole process. I think he is a Nole through and through. Now, Florida State will get his final official visit on that big June 21st weekend that we've been talking about, and I feel like at that point, he's probably pretty likely to shut his recruitment down. I know we're all a little bit traumatized about holding on to our five-star commits, and I hear you, but I think Thomas sticks, and I think he signs with Florida State in December. Now, while Thomas is the only offensive line commit they have currently, they are trending in lead for several other top targets along the offensive line, starting with Josh Petty, another five-star offensive lineman that the Noles recently received a crystal ball prediction from Steve Wiltfong. He's the number 2 interior offensive lineman in this class, just behind Solomon Thomas, so Florida State could very well end up landing the top 2 interior guys out of this whole group. Some competition for Petty could be Clemson or Auburn, but it's actually looking like he might not even take his Clemson visit. Meanwhile, Florida State gets his final visit and gets a chance to make the last impression, so Nole's definitely in the driver's seat here. Love to just see him close it out. Now, Peyton Joseph is a 4-star offensive lineman that was actually formerly committed to the Florida Gators before decommitting back in April. Florida State does currently lead on the on-3 RPM, and they even have a crystal ball or whatever on-3 calls it for the Noles to land him. And the visits and stuff definitely seem to point that way. He's been on campus in Tallahassee quite a bit recently, including right around the time he decommitted from the Gators, which I think is interesting. So Florida State will also get his final official visit in the summer, and I think he could possibly even be the next guy to pop and commit to the good guys. Sweet to pull this one in general, but even sweeter to get him away from the Gators. Zaire Addison is another interesting one. He's actually a tackle, which is another position you'd really like to see Florida State beef up this cycle. FSU currently leads for him on the RPMs as well. I do think we have some competition still with Georgia, Florida, and Oregon is in there as well. He's from the state of Florida, and FSU gets the last visit, so it does still feel like there's some work to do in this one, but Martinville and the staff get all the opportunities to cement themselves as the leader here. Now, Max Buchanan is another 4-star offensive lineman. He's an in-state battle, and I think he's shown interest in Florida State, Miami, Florida, and UCF. They've all kind of went back and forth so far. It does really seem like Florida State has a slight edge, but really stiff competition from the other Florida schools. I would honestly be more worried about UCF and Miami in this one, but I think Florida State can keep chipping away at it. Now, this is one that Florida State won't get the last official visit for, but he'll be in Tallahassee on June 7th, then going to Miami and Penn State after that. But who knows? Maybe Florida State can do enough on that visit to possibly convince him to cancel one of those visits. Max is one that it seems like is far from over, if I'm being honest, and I can definitely see this one going into the season before it finally starts to settle down. Of course, with all the momentum and traction with recruiting comes the numbers game. How crowded is the room? Some players don't necessarily want to join a room that's packed full of competition, especially if they feel that they're outmatched. There's also the NIL aspect of how much can you pay for your 5th offensive lineman take if he feels that he could be a number 1 or number 2 guy somewhere else. So you really got to strategize and take the right guys at the right times. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how this whole class shakes out, but especially the offensive line group. One thing's for sure, though, we'll be here to break it all to you guys and talk about it. So if you enjoyed the video, definitely drop a like and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in and talking some Florida State recruiting. It looks like we're going to be stacking up a couple 5-stars on the offensive line, I think. Careful. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Go Noles.